Chapter 1. I died holding my son. Nolan's small body pressed against mine, cold and fundamentally wrong. His eyes had turned milky white, and when he lunged with inhuman hunger, I didn't run. I opened my arms and let him come, let the infection take me too. What was the point of surviving in a world where my baby had become a monster? The pain was brief, a tearing sensation in my chest, warmth spreading through the veins, then darkness, then nothing. Until I woke gasping at 4 a.m., my heart slamming against my ribs. The darkness of our bedroom pressed down on me, familiar in a way that made no sense. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers. April 22nd, 4 a.m. Exactly 30 days before the outbreak. Exactly 30 days before everything I loved was ripped away. I stumbled to Nolan's room, barely breathing. There he was, my beautiful boy, sleeping peacefully in his race car bed. His chest was rising and falling with each breath. Alive, warm, human. I couldn't stop myself. I scooped him into my arms, breathing in his sweet scent, strawberry shampoo, and that milky child smell that was purely him. He stirred, mumbling protests. "Mommy, I'm not a baby anymore." But even as he protested, he turned his right cheek toward me, offering it for another kiss. That small gesture, so perfectly, beautifully Nolan, made me cry harder. A loud bang shattered the moment. Noah's voice boomed through the apartment, raw with panic. Then he was there, in the doorway, his 6'3" frame filling the space, face twisted with desperate relief. He didn't say a word. He just rushed forward and scooped both of us into his arms, pulling so tight I could barely breathe. Then my strong, composed, highly educated accountant husband began to cry like a child. "I'm sorry," he sobbed into my hair. "I'm so sorry for failing to save anyone." My heart stopped. Those words, the specific words, the raw guilt. I knew that pain. "Noah," I whispered, pulling back to look into his red-rimmed eyes. "You remember too?" He nodded, unable to speak. Nolan, confused and still half asleep, patted his father's arm. "It's okay, Daddy. I'm here." Muffled sobs came from down the hall, my in-laws' room. We made our way to their door. Inside, Linda and Robert clutched each other, both crying in the pre-dawn darkness. "We couldn't protect anyone," father-in-law choked out, his voice breaking. This man, a retired military officer who'd faced combat, was crumbling before us. "We failed all of you." "You're back too?" I said softly. Mother-in-law nodded, reaching out. We moved as one, all 5 of us coming together in an embrace that felt like coming home and remembering a nightmare in the same breath. We gathered in the living room as dawn broke. I served coffee to everyone and banana milk for Nolan. We needed it to clear our heads. Nolan went first, voice flat. "So, we have actually been reborn. All of us, and together at that." He scanned everyone at the table. Every face is precious. Their eyes are moist. Then he spoke again. "If what we faced was the truth or some cosmic miracle, we need to survive this. We need to prepare for the outbreak. I still don't get it. Why, in a highly developed modern country like L Country, has a virus outbreak like this?" I took his hand. "I was also thinking the same thing, and my guess is maybe some other country that was jealous of our development and planted the virus, or our scientists did something shady. Either way, we need to survive this first. We may come back to life by some miracle, but we don't know how long the outbreak will last." Father-in-law nodded. "Exactly. We died a week after the outbreak, which means one thing." He squeezed mother-in-law's hands. "We need to move quickly, very quickly." We all nodded. We still couldn't digest the truth about our brutal death, but now's not the time to think about it. We first need to get away from this hot pan. The luxurious apartment, our own home that was so warm before, now feels like a ticking bomb. The truth settled between us like ice water. We'd all died. We'd all come back. "I have something important to tell you," I said, drawing their attention. Last month, in the original timeline, I bought a villa in the suburbs for vacation, 10 acres outside a tiny village. It was supposed to be a surprise. Mother-in-law's eyes widened. A villa? Eva, that's perfect. We could renovate it, fortify it. Excellent daughter. He patted my head with practiced fatherly affection like he always does. I showed them the villa's pictures. We need to move fast, father-in-law said, his military training kicking in. I'll list this apartment for sale today. Price it low enough to move quickly. This neighborhood, I added, most competitive school district in the city. If we list 20% below market, it'll be gone by tomorrow. 80 million won, father-in-law said. As is, cash deal. Close in 3 days. We act completely normal, Noah said. Smile at neighbors, go to work, because if people think we're crazy, they'll stop us or follow us. We told my parents and brother Evan that afternoon. 4 brutal hours of convincing through video call. You're asking us to believe you died and came back 30 days before some viral outbreak destroys civilization? My father said carefully, testing each word. They need psychiatric help, Evan said, arms crossed. Look at us, I pleaded. Really look. When have you ever seen us like this? My mother studied our faces with a nurse's eye for trauma. You're terrified, all of you. You look like you haven't slept in weeks. But that's impossible, because I saw you 3 days ago and you were fine. We remember, Grandma, Nolan said quietly. Something in his voice, the weight of it, the absolute wrongness of a 5-year-old speaking with such gravitas, made everyone go still. I remember my kindergarten classroom and the smell of finger paint, and I remember when the monsters came and how they broke down the door. I remember the school security bit Kith and then me, and then I forgot everything. He cried, clutching his tiny arm. It still hurts, even though I am fine. Eva and Noah hugged Nolan as they cried too. Don't cry, my love. No one will ever hurt you. Mom and Dad promise. We wiped his tears. The room went silent. My father stared at Nolan with something like horror. Noah pulled out his phone with trembling hands. Tomorrow's lottery numbers. I remember seeing them on a TV in a convenience store. Stock market changes for the next week. I'm a finance analyst, so I paid attention. News headlines that will break in exactly 3 days. I spent 2 hours this morning writing everything down before I forgot any details. And if we're wrong, if somehow we're all having the same hallucination, then you've lost nothing except a month helping us prepare for a disaster that won't come. But if we're right, we survive. Together. My parents looked at each other with wordless communication that comes from 50 years of marriage. We'll help, my mother said finally. Not because I believe you've traveled back in time, but I believe that you believe it with every fiber of your being, and I'm not abandoning my family. Evan ran his hands through his hair. I think you're all having some kind of shared psychotic break, but I'm in anyway. Someone needs to be the voice of reason when you're all building bomb shelters. Chapter 2. Within 3 hours of listing our apartment, we had 15 inquiries. By evening, 7 serious offers. The Kim brothers arrived on the 3rd day with their real estate agent. I recognized them immediately. The oldest still had that arrogant smirk that had been on his face when he'd beaten Noah to death. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms hard enough to draw blood. This is a very interesting property, the agent said. The price point is quite attractive. My wife and I are relocating for work, Noah said smoothly, though I could see the muscle jumping in his jaw. We need to move quickly. The eldest Kim brother, Danny, walked through our living room with casual entitlement, eyes cataloging everything he'd eventually steal. Nice place. Must have a lot of valuable things here. Not anymore, I replied coolly. We've already moved most of our belongings. When they finally left without making an offer, we released the breath that we were holding. The actual buyers came the next day, a young couple expecting their first child, nervous and excited. They loved the apartment immediately. We closed within a week, signing away our old life for $80 million that would fund our survival. During that week, I had to face Jolly. It happened in the lobby. She was standing by the mailboxes with mother-in-law, prattling on about neighborhood gossip. And of course, with prices dropping like this, who knows what kind of people will start moving in? I heard your family is selling, moving somewhere better, mother-in-law? Mother-in-law's response was crisp. We've made arrangements that suit our family's needs. She tried to step past, but Jolly moved to block her. We should look out for each other. When you move, maybe you could tell me where? No. The word came from the father-in-law who had appeared behind Jolly. His voice was flat, emotionless, utterly final. Jolly turned, arranging her face into a warm smile. My, someone's gotten awfully cold. I was just trying to be friendly. Your friendship has never been something we desired. Good day. He took mother-in-law's arm and guided her toward the elevator, leaving Jolly standing alone. As I approached, she turned that false smile on me. Eva, I hear congratulations are in order, moving up in the world. I looked at this woman who had gotten my family killed, who had spent years making my mother-in-law miserable out of sheer bitterness. In another timeline, I died, never knowing it was her post that had brought the mob to our door. Excuse me, I said, moving past her without another word. That's just rude. What's gotten to everyone today? I didn't respond, didn't look back. She deserved nothing from us, not even our anger. But God, it was hard. Mother-in-law found the villa on day 3, 2 stories on 10 acres outside a tiny village. The previous owner had died 6 months ago. His children abroad wanted a quick sale. We'll take it, father-in-law said immediately. Don't you want an inspection? We'll take it. Cash offer, 5% over asking, 3-day close. The agent's eyes went wide. I'll call the sellers immediately. Before we left our building for the last time, I installed hidden cameras. Small ones in the hallways disguised the smoke detectors. Long-life batteries, cloud backup, encrypted storage. What are you doing? Father-in-law asked. Installing cameras. I want to know what happens here after we leave. I want to see how it starts, how it spreads, gathering evidence for future purposes. Chapter 3. Both sales closed on April 25th. 27 days remaining. We gathered in the empty villa, standing in the field that would become our salvation. We decided to divide the work for better efficiency. My father and my father-in-law took the role of fortifying the security to the maximum level. Noah and Evan took the part of gathering food that has a long shelf life. My mother and my mother-in-law took the gathering of livestock and fresh vegetables. And Nolan was in charge of keeping our heads cool by being cute. And he also helped to remember the items on the lists, which helped. Father-in-law took care of weapons that don't make sound, like crossbows, knives, as well as bombs and bear traps and smoke bombs. The plans grew and evolved. A greenhouse for vegetables, a chicken coop, a fish pond, even space in the deeper basement for raising pigs with proper ventilation. Construction began immediately. We hired 3 separate crews, each thinking they worked on completely different projects. We hired multiple contractors, different companies for different projects. No single contractor sees the full picture. One company builds walls and thinks it's for privacy. Another installs the greenhouse and thinks we're starting an organic farm. A third does basement reinforcement and believes it's a wine cellar expansion. Nobody knows we're building a fortress. We all paid the workers double the fee and subtly asked them to stockpile supplies. The walls went up first, 12 feet of reinforced concrete topped with decorative ironwork that hid the actual defensive purpose. To contractors, privacy and protection from wild boar. Father-in-law supervised while simultaneously installing hidden defenses, bear traps with false ground coverings, tripwires connected to alarms, remote-controlled spike strips. Not lethal, father-in-law assured me, just discouraging. The greenhouse went up next, a beautiful structure of reinforced glass and steel. Inside, my mother began planting immediately: tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and herbs. The chicken coop went up in a week, large enough for 50 birds. We started with 20 laying hens. The fish pond required excavation, but filled quickly, stocked with fingerlings that would grow into harvestable fish. The basement renovations took the longest. We told contractors we were expanding the wine cellar. What we actually built was a bunker with steel-reinforced walls, air filtration systems, and enough storage for 5 years of supplies. With 2 weeks remaining, I created anonymous accounts on every major social media platform and posted warnings. In exactly 2 weeks, a viral outbreak will begin spreading from L country. The virus is real, deadly, and turns people into violent, mindless killers. Stock up on food, water, and medicine. Fortify your homes. Don't trust the government to save you. This is your only warning. Most responses mocked me. Crazy doomsday prepper, take your meds, reported for spreading panic. But a few, just a few, said they'd prepare, just in case. Some asked for specific advice. I provided what I could without revealing too much. High-calorie, non-perishables, water purification tablets, first aid supplies, reinforced doors and windows. Have an escape plan. I hoped those few would survive. We moved to the villa permanently on May 10th, 12 days before the outbreak. Everything was ready. Walls, gates, supplies, defenses. On May 20th, 2 days before the outbreak, we held a final family meeting. In 48 hours, everything changes, I said. Once it starts, we don't open these gates for anyone. Not friends, not neighbors, not strangers. Every person we let in is a potential threat, either infected, desperate enough to do anything, or they'll give away our location. Everyone understands? One by one, they nodded. Even Nolan, understanding too much for his age, nodded solemnly. Chapter 4. May 22nd dawned bright and mockingly beautiful. By noon, the first reports came through. A passenger from L country had attacked security at City Airport. By evening, the infection had spread through. By night, the government declared a national emergency. We watched it unfold on multiple news channels, civilization collapsing in real time. Traffic jams for miles, grocery stores were ransacked within hours, police overwhelmed, hospitals overrun. By nightfall, screams echoed from the village below. By day 2, the internet became a horror show. 2 men fighting to the death over instant noodles, a mother smothering her crying infant because noise attracted infected, other survivors nodding approval. Armed robberies at convenience stores, families attacked by neighbors demanding supplies, cannibalism reported in quarantine zones. Is this what we are? What humans become when the rules disappear? Evan whispered. This is what we've always been, father-in-law said quietly. Civilization is just a thin veneer. That evening, I checked the building cameras. Day 4, Jolly appeared in the hallway, knocking on doors. Mrs. Lee, do you have food? She stopped at the Adams door, Dr. Sarah Adams and her husband Marcus, their granddaughters Emma and Sophie staying with them. Dr. Adams, please, my mother needs medication. Something felt wrong, the way she kept glancing behind her, positioning herself to the side rather than in front of the door. I grabbed my phone and dialed Dr. Adams' number, praying she'd answer. Hello? Her voice was wary. Dr. Adams, this is Eva Williams from 15C. Don't open your door. I have cameras in the hallway. Jolly has men hiding around the corner. It's a trap. Silence, then muffled. Marcus, get the girls away from the door right now. Through the camera, Jolly knocked harder. Dr. Adams, please! My mother is dying! Tell her you don't have anything. Sarah's voice came through the door. We used our last medication yesterday. We've been rationing and we're out. I can't help you. You're lying! Open this fucking door! 3 men emerged, Mark and 2 others with crowbars and a fire axe. Sarah, they're going to try to break in. Barricade that door right now. Push every piece of heavy furniture against it. Already on it. Over 3 days, I watched obsessively. Jolly's group broke into apartments one by one. Each time, more supplies looted. Each time, more blood. Day 7, the lobby group tried to evacuate. Within minutes, all 4 were down. We watched them turn over for the next hour, their eyes filming over white. Day 11, the infected reached the Adams floor. 8 clawed at their barricaded door. Day 12, Jolly's group appeared, dispatching the infected efficiently. Mark lifted his axe and slammed it into the Adams door. Time's up, Doctor. We know you've got supplies. You can open this door and share, or we'll break through and take everything. Please, we have children here. We'll share. Just don't hurt the girls. Then open the door. How do I know you won't kill us anyway? Mark laughed cruelly. You don't. But if you don't open up, I guarantee we'll kill you. At least this way you've got a chance. 20 minutes of relentless assault. The door splintered and gave way with a crash. Men rushed inside, weapons raised. Through the camera's limited angle, shadows are moving violently, shouting. Dr. Adams pleading, Marcus trying to reason, the granddaughter screaming, "Please, the children are innocent. Take what you want, but leave them alone." Then Jolly noticed something. Her head whipped toward the stairwell, eyes widening. Guys, we need to go! Now! We're not done! Look!" Zombies. Not 8, a horde. 20, 30, maybe more, filling the hallway from both directions like a tide of rotting flesh. "Shit! Move! Move! Move!" But they'd taken too long. The zombies were there, cutting off the stairwell. Mark swung his axe. For each one that fell, 3 more pressed forward. One man went down first, pulled into the mass. His screams lasted maybe 10 seconds. The second man tried to run back into the Adams apartment, but zombies were pouring through that broken door now. Mark was still fighting, but there were too many. A zombie lunged for his arm, jaws snapping. He swung the metal pipe hard, connecting with its skull and sending it crashing backward into the others. The horde stumbled over the fallen body, buying him precious seconds. Jolly ran for the stairwell, weaving between the infected. Her hand touched the door handle. Then her foot caught on debris, and she stumbled forward. "Jolly!" Mark grabbed her jacket and yanked her upright before she could fall. They dove through the stairwell door together. Mark slammed it shut just as rotting hands reached for them. The lock clicked into place. They collapsed against the wall, gasping but alive. Through the narrow window, the infected pressed and clawed uselessly at the barrier. Her being saved by Mark made all our moods sour. Inside the Adams apartment, the worst sounds. Emma and Sophie are screaming, wet, tearing sounds. Dr. Adams' voice, "Run, babies! Climb out the window! Please, go!" Then silence. Horrible, final silence. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until nothing was left. Noah found me on the floor 20 minutes later. He didn't say anything, just pulled me against his chest and held me while I cried. "I tried," I sobbed. "I tried to warn them. I tried to save them." "You gave them 11 extra days," Noah whispered. 11 days they wouldn't have had. That matters, Eva. It has to matter. But not enough. Not nearly enough. Those little girls. I know. Chapter 5. Dawn, day 14. 12 survivors at our gates. A man held up empty hands. "Please, we're not infected. We just need food, water. We have children." I watched through the cameras. Women clutching half-starved children, an elderly man weaning on his daughter. Everyone is exhausted, terrified, and human. "We can't," father-in-law said. "There are children. And if one is infected, we open those gates and we die. All of us, including Nolan." My mother appeared. "We could leave supplies outside, by the drones." Father-in-law nodded. "Water and bread only. 6 bottles, 2 loaves of bread. Add some cakes for the children. They take it and leave immediately." I loaded 6 bottles and bread and cakes into the drone. Through the intercom, "There's water and bread in the drone. Take it and go." The man grabbed the bottles with shaking hands, looking up at the camera with desperate gratitude. "Thank you. God bless you." They distributed the water among their group, children drinking first. Children ate the chocolate cakes with relish. Then they turned to leave. The explosion shattered the moment. A second group emerged from the trees. 15 armed men. They'd been waiting, using the desperate families as bait. The families scattered, screaming. The elderly man couldn't move fast enough. A bat came down on his skull. His daughter screamed, tried to drag him. Another man threw her to the ground. 2 children were cut down as they ran. Others fled into the woods, pursued. Gunshots echoed. The armed men turned toward our gates. "That's why," father-in-law said quietly. "That's exactly why we can't help. Mercy gets you killed." They tested our defenses for 3 hours, eventually leaving behind bodies. Inside, life continued with strange normalcy. 5-year-old Nolan sat at the kitchen table with his workbooks, carefully tracing letters with his pencil. His tongue poked out in concentration. "Mama, is this H right?" I leaned over to check. "Perfect, sweetheart. Now try writing house." He had no idea what had just happened outside our walls. To him, this was just another lesson day. Every morning followed the same routine. Breakfast, then lessons. I taught him reading and writing, simple math problems, and basic history through picture books. Noah would take over for science lessons, showing Nolan simple experiments, mixing baking soda and vinegar, watching it fizz, growing beans in wet paper towels. Normal kindergarten activities in our abnormal world. Dad, look! The bean has a baby root. That's called a sprout, buddy. You're growing your first plant. The greenhouse became Nolan's favorite place for lessons. He'd help my mother tend the vegetables, learning about photosynthesis and plant life cycles, while getting dirt under his fingernails. Grandma, why do plants need sun? Because sunlight is their food, sweetheart, just like you need your vegetables. I wish I could eat sunlight instead of broccoli. My mother laughed, ruffling his hair. Nice try, little man. In the evenings, we'd read together. Nolan was starting to sound out words on his own now, following along with his finger. He'd beam, then snuggle closer. Read me the Silver Dragon story now? The one with the brave knight? Again? We've read it 5 times this week. Please, it's my favorite. How could I say no? Outside, the world was ending. Inside, my son wanted his favorite bedtime story. My mother taught him to bake, measuring cups and fractions disguised as cookie making. If the recipe needs 1 cup of flour and we want to make half, how much do we use? Nolan fought hard. Half a cup? Perfect. You're learning fractions. I'm learning cookies, he grinned, sneaking a chocolate chip when he thought she wasn't looking. Father-in-law set up a small art station where Nolan could paint and draw. The walls of his room were filled with his artwork: bright suns, stick figure families, houses with smoking chimneys. Grandpa, can you hang this one too? Another masterpiece? Where should it go? Next to the one with the rainbow. Every night, we'd gather for dinner like a normal family, and mother-in-law made sure to cook different dishes every day. Nolan would chatter about his day, the new words he learned, the plant he watered, the picture he drew. And Grandpa taught me about Egypt. They had pyramids and mummies and... Mama, what's a pharaoh again? A king, baby. The pharaohs were kings. I want to be a pharaoh when I grow up. Noah caught my eye across the table. Both of us are thinking the same thing. Would there be a world for him to grow up in? But we smiled and nodded. That's a great goal, buddy. Chapter 6. Despite the horrors outside our walls, we refuse to let the apocalypse steal our humanity. Inside the villa, life pulsed with determined normalcy. Every morning began with the smell of fresh bread from mother-in-law's kitchen. She'd taken to baking daily. Therapeutic, she claimed, though we all knew it was her way of maintaining routine. The warm, yeasty scent would drift through the entire house, pulling everyone from their beds with promises of butter and jam. 5 more minutes, Nolan would groan, burrowing deeper into his blankets. Bread waits for no one, mother-in-law would call back, her voice filled with mock severity. Breakfast became our sacred time. All 8 of us crammed around the extended dining table, passing plates and arguing over the last piece of bacon. The meals were always spectacular. My mother and mother-in-law had claimed the kitchen as their exclusive domain from day one. Absolutely not, mother-in-law had said firmly when I'd tried to help with dinner preparation in the first week. You handle the medical supplies and keep us all healthy. We handle the food. But I can... No, my mother joined in, shooing me away with a dish towel. You have enough on your plate, sweetheart. Let us do this. And they were spectacular at it. One day we'd have a full Korean BBQ spread, bulgogi, kimchi, banchan, covering every inch of the table. The next day, aromatic chicken biryani filled the entire villa with the scent of spices and caramelized onions. Then pizza from scratch, tacos, pad thai, whatever struck their fancy. How did you learn to make this? Evan would ask, mouthful of perfectly seasoned Korean fried chicken. YouTube videos before the outbreak, mother-in-law would say proudly. Downloaded hundreds of cooking tutorials. Best decision ever, Noah would agree, reaching for seconds. Father-in-law would read snippets from old newspapers we'd saved during meals, deliberately choosing the most absurd pre-outbreak headlines. Local man arrested for stealing garden gnomes, he'd announce solemnly. Claims they were calling to him. Nolan would dissolve into giggles. That's silly. Gnomes can't talk. Are you sure? Noah would tease, adopting a mysterious voice. Have you checked the garden lately? The afternoons brought a different energy. After lunch, we'd all gather for daily exercise, a routine father-in-law insisted on religiously. Physical fitness isn't optional, he'd declare, leading us through stretches, cardio, and strength training. Even Nolan participated, doing modified exercises while giggling at the adult's exertion. Grandpa, why is Daddy making that face? He'd ask innocently during push-ups. Because your father is out of shape, father-in-law would reply. I'm an accountant, not a soldier, Noah would protest between gasps. After exercise, my mother and mother-in-law would head to the greenhouse playing old radio music while they tended plants. They'd sing along, terribly off-key, to songs from their youth, laughing when they forgot lyrics. Wait, what comes after Under the Boardwalk? My mother would ask. Something about the sun? Mother-in-law would guess. We're hopeless, they'd say in unison, then burst out laughing. Evan established what he called Movie Fridays. He'd rigged up a projector using our generator, and every Friday night, we'd gather in the living room with popcorn and homemade sodas. Our collection was eclectic. Action movies, comedies, animated films for Nolan, even a few cheesy horror films that felt absurd now. The zombies in this movie are so fake, Nolan would comment seriously during one such screening. Yeah? Noah would nudge him. How so? Real ones are way scarier and slower, and they smell worse. The matter-of-fact way he said it would make us all go quiet for a moment before someone, usually Evan, would break the tension with a joke. Board games filled other evenings. We'd play cards, Monopoly, Scrabble, and even make up our own games. Father-in-law and Noah were ruthlessly strategic. Mother-in-law played with cheerful chaos. My mother somehow always won through sheer luck. Evan would try to cheat, get caught, and laugh about it. I wasn't cheating. I was creatively interpreting the rules. That's literally what cheating is, Noah would protest. Semantics. Sunday dinners were elaborate affairs. My mother and mother-in-law would spend hours preparing multi-course meals, refusing all offers of help. They'd emerge from the kitchen with roasted chicken or fish from our pond, fresh vegetables and garlic sauce, rice cooked a dozen different ways. This is better than any restaurant, my father would declare, every single week. You say that every week, mother-in-law would reply, because it's true every week. Father-in-law taught Nolan chess in the evenings, the two of them bent over the board by lamplight, but most of Nolan's day was spent playing with his grandparents. Nana, Gramps, come see what I built, he'd called to my parents, dragging them to see his latest block tower or drawing. That's amazing, sweetheart, my mother would coo, examining his artwork with genuine appreciation. My father would get down on the floor despite his creaky knees, helping Nolan build elaborate block cities. Now, we need a bridge here. Every good city has bridges. With Nolan's parents, the energy was different but equally loving. Mimi, can you read me the dragon story again? Nolan would ask mother-in-law, climbing into her lap. Again? We've read it 3 times today. Please, you do the best dragon voice. Mother-in-law would melt every time, her stern voice turning into exaggerated dragon roars that made Nolan squeal with delight. Father-in-law, Pop, took a more educational approach. Their chess games had become a spectacle, father-in-law never letting Nolan win, but explaining every move, every strategy. See how the knight moves? L-shaped. It can jump over other pieces. Like a horse jumping a fence, Nolan would exclaim. Exactly like that. When Nolan finally won his first game, legitimately, after months of trying, we all cheered so loudly that the chickens outside started clucking in alarm. Thanks to the advanced soundproofing in our entire villa, we were not too worried about sound leaking. Noah started a library in one of the spare rooms. He'd carefully organized every book we'd brought, creating a cozy reading nook with cushions and soft lighting. In the evenings, you'd often find multiple family members there, reading in comfortable silence. Sometimes Nolan would curl up with a picture book while I worked on medical journals. Noah would be absorbed in a thriller, while Evan studied technical manuals. The quiet companionship felt more valuable than gold. We celebrated everything. Birthdays, obviously, but also smaller victories. The first tomato harvest, the day the chickens laid a record number of eggs, when Evan finally got the water filtration system running at peak efficiency. "To Evan," father-in-law would toast, "master of pipes and water things." "Very eloquent, Dad," Noah would laugh. "I'm an accountant, not a poet." My role in the household became clear early on. I was the family pharmacist and health manager. Every morning, I'd prepare everyone's medications and supplements in a small organizer system I'd created. "Eva, I can handle the medications," my mother had offered one morning, reaching for the pill bottles with her nurse's instincts. "No," I'd said firmly, but gently, pulling the bottles back. "Mom, I know everyone's complete health history, their allergies, their interactions, their dosing schedules. I need to do this. But I know Dad's blood pressure fluctuates with stress. I know Mother-in-law needs her thyroid medication exactly 30 minutes before breakfast. I know Father-in-law's shoulder injury acts up in cold weather, and he needs anti-inflammatories preemptively. I know Noah's vitamin D levels and Evan's iron deficiency." I'd met her eyes. "Let me take care of you all, please." She'd relented, understanding in her nurse's heart that sometimes controlling something, keeping our family healthy, was how I processed the lack of control everywhere else. Every evening, I'd do rounds, checking blood pressure, examining any new cuts or bruises, ensuring everyone was sleeping well, eating enough, and staying healthy. It became my ritual, my way of making sure we all survived not just the outbreak, but the long-term toll of stress and isolation. For Nolan's 6th birthday, we went all out. Mother-in-law and my mother baked a 3-layer cake together, arguing affectionately about proper frosting technique. My mother made his favorite biryani. We decorated the living room with handmade paper chains and banners. Father-in-law gave him a wooden sword he'd carved himself. We played games, sang songs, and for a few hours pretended the world outside didn't exist. "This is the best birthday ever," Nolan declared, chocolate frosting smeared across his face. Watching him blow out candles, surrounded by family who loved him fiercely, I felt something shift in my chest. Yes, the world was broken. Yes, we'd lost so much. But here, in this villa, we'd created something precious. Not just survival, life. Music filled our home constantly. Noah played guitar, badly but enthusiastically. Evan had a surprisingly good singing voice. My father would drum on any available surface. We'd have impromptu concerts where everyone participated, regardless of talent. "Everyone can make noise," my mother would insist. "Music is just organized noise." "That's debatable," when Evan hit a particularly off note, mother-in-law would mutter. We established quirky traditions. Wednesday was Teach Nolan Something New Day, where each family member took turns sharing a skill. Father-in-law taught him military marching. Mother-in-law taught him bread making. My mother showed him basic first aid. Evan demonstrated electronics. Noah covered financial literacy, simplified for a 6-year-old. My father shared woodworking. I taught him about plants, medicine, and how to read weather patterns. "See those clouds? That shape means rain within 12 hours. "How do you know?" he'd ask, eyes wide. "Science and experience." "You're so smart, Mama." Those words, that awe in his voice, made every hard decision worth it. Even our chores had life to them. Each family member had claimed their territory in our small farm ecosystem. Every morning, I'd head to the chicken coop, basket in hand. The hens had learned my schedule and would cluck excitedly when they heard my footsteps. "Good morning, ladies," I'd greet them, carefully collecting eggs. "Excellent work today. 17 eggs. That's a new record." I'd started planning a cake recipe I'd seen on Facebook before the outbreak, something elaborate with multiple layers. The chickens were making it possible, egg by egg. The fish pond was my second stop. I'd crouch by the edge, watching the fish dart beneath the surface, checking their health and growth. It was peaceful there, meditative. Meanwhile, Noah and Evan would disappear into the second basement, where we built the pig and goat pens with proper ventilation and drainage. "It smells like death down there," I'd commented once. "It smells like bacon and fresh milk," Noah had countered with a grin. "That's the smell of future deliciousness." They loved the work somehow. 5 pigs, Hamlet, Bacon, Porkchop, Wilbur, and Charlotte, Nolan had named them, and 8 goats that provided milk for cheese and yogurt. "Come on, Gertrude, cooperate," I'd hear Evan coaxing one of the goats. "Just a little more milk, that's a good girl." "You named the goat Gertrude?" Noah would laugh. "It looks like a Gertrude." On days when I wasn't tending the chickens or fish, I'd join them in the basement. The pigs were surprisingly intelligent and affectionate, grunting happily when we'd scratch behind their ears. My father and father-in-law had claimed the cows as their domain. We had 3, Bessie, Daisy, and Buttercup, gentle giants that provided milk and, hopefully, future calves. "Good morning, beautiful ladies," my father would croon, approaching with hay. The cows would low softly, recognizing his voice. Father-in-law would handle the milking with practiced efficiency, his military precision translating surprisingly well to farm work. But everything changed when we discovered Buttercup was pregnant. "She's definitely expecting," my father had announced one morning, eyes bright with excitement. "I'd say about 4 months along." From that moment, those two became absurdly attentive. They'd check on Buttercup multiple times a day, monitoring her food intake, her behavior, and her comfort level. "Is she eating enough?" father-in-law would fret. "She's a cow, not a supermodel," mother-in-law would call from the kitchen. "She'll eat when she's hungry." "But what if?" "She's fine, Dad," Noah would laugh. My father installed a camera in the barn so they could monitor Buttercup from the house. They'd take turns watching the feed, looking for any signs of distress or early labor. "This is ridiculous," my mother would say affectionately, watching her husband stare at the cow cam for the 3rd time that hour. "Our first calf," my father would reply with wonder, "born in the apocalypse. That's hope right there." And he was right. The promise of new life, a calf that would grow strong, that might one day have calves of its own, felt like defiance against the death outside our walls. The cows genuinely seemed to love their company. They'd perk up when my father and father-in-law approached, nuzzling against them for attention. Buttercup especially had become almost dog-like, following father-in-law around the pen and making soft sounds when he'd speak to her. "You're gonna be a wonderful mother," father-in-law would tell her, stroking her flank. "Strong and healthy, just like you." Watching these 2 military men, one retired, one former, doting on a pregnant cow with such tender care was both absurd and beautiful. The greenhouse became everyone's therapy space. There was something peaceful about working with soil, watching things grow. We'd often find each other there during difficult moments, not speaking, just existing together among the green life we'd coaxed from seeds. At night, after Nolan was asleep, the adults would gather in the living room. Sometimes we'd talk about serious things, supplies, defenses, the future, but often we'd just sit together, sharing stories from before. "Remember that time you tried to assemble the bookshelf without instructions?" mother-in-law would ask father-in-law. "It worked eventually." "It fell apart within a week." Details. The laughter that filled our home wasn't a denial of the horror outside. It was defiance. Every joke, every song, every moment of joy was us refusing to let the apocalypse win. We were more than survivors. We were still human, still family, still alive in every way that mattered. And when the nightmares came, because they always came, there was always someone awake to sit with, to make tea, to remind you that you were safe, you were loved, and you weren't alone. "We're going to be okay" became our refrain, not because we knew it was true, but because saying it made it feel possible. And in that villa, behind those walls, we built something the outbreak couldn't touch. Not just a fortress, a home. Not just survival, a life worth living. The world outside was dead or dying, but inside, we were vibrantly, defiantly, beautifully alive. 6 months in, we found a solution that eased some guilt. "The drone can carry 5 pounds," Evan said, showing his modification. "Fly silent, drop supplies at designated coordinates, untraceable." That night, we made our first drop. Baby formula, antibiotics, water purification tablets, left in a clearing 3 miles from a refugee camp we'd spotted on surveillance. We watched through the drone's camera as a woman found the package at dawn. She fell to her knees, clutching the formula to her chest, sobbing. Our life is split into 2 realities, the mundane normalcy inside our walls and the horror beyond them that we tried to ease in small, secret ways. "Mama, can we make cookies today?" "After your math lesson, baby." "How many problems?" 10 addition problems. If you get them all right, we'll make double chocolate chip." "Deal." 2 weeks later, Evan got voices through the static. "Supply run to Sector 4 was successful. Cleared Sector 7 of infected. Vaccine trials beginning next week." We crowded around, hardly breathing. "This is the National Emergency Response Center. If anyone is receiving this transmission, note the following coordinates for the nearest established safe zone. We are surviving. We are rebuilding. You are not alone." Father-in-law grabbed a map with shaking hands. 50 miles north, under Commander Zang Wei. His voice thickened with emotion. "If Zhang Wei is alive, if he's running a safe zone, he's the best man I ever served with." Chapter 7. The radio crackled to life on day 187, a voice, disciplined and clear, cutting through static. "This is Commander Zhang Wei, formerly of the National Defense Force, broadcasting from Safe Zone 7. We have 300 civilians under protection. We need medical supplies, food, and ammunition. If anyone can hear this, we're willing to trade labor, security expertise, or whatever we can offer. Respond on this frequency." Father-in-law's face went white. "Zhang? Zhang Wei? That's impossible." "You know him?" Noah asked. "Served with him for 8 years, one of the best officers I ever knew. Strategic, disciplined, compassionate." Father-in-law grabbed the radio. "If Zhang is alive and organized, he's our best chance at rebuilding." Father-in-law keyed the mic. "Commander Zhang Wei, this is Major Robert Williams. Respond if you copy." Long pause. Then, "Robert? Robert Williams. Authenticate. What was the name of the bar in Z City where I beat you at poker?" Father-in-law smiled. "The Lucky Dragon, and you cheated." "I absolutely did not cheat. You're just a sore loser." "Robert, where are you? Are you safe? Do you have people with you?" "I'm safe. I have my family. And I have supplies. Food, medicine, equipment. Enough to help your community for years." Another pause. Longer this time. "What's the catch?" "No catch, just, we want to help. But we need to meet in person first. Can you come to us?" "Give me coordinates. I'll come personally with a small security team." Father-in-law looked at me. I nodded slowly. "Give him the coordinates." 3 days later, they arrived. 5 vehicles, military trucks, worn but functional. Commander Zhang Wei emerged from the lead vehicle, lean and weathered, moving with decades of military precision. Behind him came 4 soldiers and a woman in her 40s with the kind eyes and a medical patch on her sleeve. They stopped at our outer gate, staring up at the fortress walls, the greenhouse, the obvious wealth of preparation. Father-in-law opened the gate personally. The 2 men stood facing each other for a heartbeat. Then Zhang crossed the distance in 3 strides and embraced father-in-law fiercely. I thought you were dead, Zang said, voice thick. Everyone I knew, everyone I served with. I thought I was the last one left. I'm hard to kill. Zang pulled back, eyes scanning the compound, then moving to us. His gaze lingered on Nolan. You kept your family safe. In this hell, you managed to keep them all alive. We prepared, we got lucky, we survived. And now we want to help, if you'll have us. We gathered in the villa's main hall, our family and Zang's team. The woman introduced herself as May, Zang's wife and chief medical officer of their safe zone. Father-in-law laid out our offer with careful precision. Monthly shipments of food, rice, flour, oil, canned goods, medicine, antibiotics, pain relievers, and surgical supplies, seeds for planting, equipment. May's hands shook as she looked at the inventory list. This is impossible. These quantities would feed our entire population for months. How did you... Pre-outbreak preparation, father-in-law said smoothly, the lie practiced and believable. Government emergency reserves that I had access to from my military service. Classified stockpiles I acquired when it became clear the government was collapsing. What's the catch? May asked carefully, her nurse's instincts making her suspicious of generosity. I answered, looking directly at her. Nothing much. Security and anonymity. No one knows where the supplies came from. Zhang's eyes moved to Nolan, who sat quietly, hands folded, then back to us. That can be taken care of. Thanks, I said simply. Zang was quiet for a long moment, studying us all. Then he spoke carefully. I need to be honest with you. We've built something real at the base. Structure, order, hope. But it's fragile. If people learn that one family has everything while they have almost nothing, there could be resentment, violence. But we will try our best to control the situation. Your contribution is noble, but it has risks that you should know. And there would be no specific, you supply just the basic needs. The government is working tirelessly. Till then, your help would be remembered. Zang nodded slowly. Then we have a deal. Your supplies will support our community. We'll coordinate through secure channels, and together, maybe we can help rebuild this world. We shook hands. It felt like salvation. That night, after Zhang's convoy disappeared down the road, our family gathered in the fading light. They saw everything, mother-in-law said. The walls, the greenhouse, the stores. They know exactly what we've built. And still, father-in-law said, Zang didn't take a thing. He offered a partnership. That's not weakness, that's strategy. My mother folded her arms. We're putting everything on the line. Our location, our food, our lives. Yes, I said, meeting her gaze, because hiding isn't living. We built these walls to survive, not to die behind them. Nolan deserves a world that's still worth fighting for. Noah slipped an arm around me. Then we fight smart. We build. We risk. We lead. Together, Nolan said, not quietly this time, but with the courage of someone who'd already made his choice. Chapter 8. We built a partnership over the following months. Zhang's convoy would arrive at the villa every month to collect supplies. Sometimes Zhang himself came, sometimes Captain Park or other trusted personnel. Father-in-law coordinated security training strategies with them, sharing tactics, defensive protocols, and combat techniques developed over months of surviving. My mother shared medical knowledge, treatment protocols, and surgical procedures. Noah helped design logistics systems for distribution. But we stayed behind our walls. The supplies flowed steadily, carefully coordinated deliveries that Zang presented at his base as successful scavenging operations and trade network results. Some people at his base questioned the abundance, but Zang was clever. He staggered deliveries, mixed in actual scavenging runs, and created plausible cover stories. It's working, Zang reported during a supply exchange. People believe the supplies come from multiple sources, scavenging, trade with other groups, and careful rationing. They don't suspect a single benefactor. Good. Keep it that way. The partnership continued, steady and careful. Monthly supply deliveries, strategic coordination, information sharing. We were helping rebuild, one community at a time, from behind our walls. But we kept our support limited to Zhang's base alone. We had enough supplies to help, but not enough to save the world, and spreading ourselves too thin would only put our family at risk. Chapter 9. 6 months into our partnership, Zhang brought troubling news. 2 survivors from your area showed up at the base last week, he said during a supply exchange. A woman named Jolly and a man named Mark. They mentioned they came from a residential building that was overrun, said they barely escaped. My blood went cold. Jolly and Mark. You know them? From our building, before the outbreak. I didn't mention the other timeline, didn't explain how they'd murdered us. They're resourceful and dangerous. Zhang's expression hardened. They've been asking questions about where the supplies come from. Mark especially. He's smart, calculating, always positioning himself near authority figures, always watching logistics operations. They can't find out about us, father-in-law said firmly. If they trace the supplies here? I know. Zhang looked troubled. I've been careful, but Mark is persistent. Last week, he tried to hide in one of the supply trucks during loading. My people caught him before he got far, claimed he was just trying to see the scavenging sites to volunteer for runs. Can you remove them from the base? Noah asked. On what grounds? They haven't broken any rules. They work hard, contribute to the community. Jolly volunteers in the medical center. Mark helps with logistics. Exiling them would raise questions. Then watch them, I said, closely, and change your supply pickup protocols. Different vehicles, different personnel, different times. Make it impossible for them to establish a pattern. Zhang nodded. Already done. But Eva, if they do find out somehow, what do you want me to do? Nothing, I said coldly. If they come here, we'll handle it ourselves. 2 months later, they found us. The security alarm blared at 3 a.m. Through the cameras, we watched our supply truck approaching, stolen. Mark was driving. Jolly sat in the passenger seat, a stolen gun in her lap. They found us, my father-in-law said coldly from the control room. Everyone to positions. My mother and mother-in-law rushed to lock themselves in the reinforced room with Nolan. Evan, Noah, and my father joined father-in-law in the control room, while I grabbed my rifle and took position by the main entrance. The truck pulled up to our gates 20 minutes later. Through security cameras, I watched Jolly's face transform as she took in the villa, the walls. Suspicion melted into greed, then curdled into rage. You, she breathed, finding the camera. You fucking people. You had all this food, all this safety while we were starving, dying, fighting for scraps in that building. You had paradise. Leave now, I said through the intercom, my voice steady. Drive away, we'll forget this happened. Forget? Jolly's laugh was bitter acid. You let us die. You let our entire building die. You had resources to save everyone, and you hid like cowards. But they couldn't get in. Our walls were too high, our gates too strong. Mark revved the engine, ramming the truck against the gate repeatedly. Metal shrieked, but the gate held firm. Open up! Jolly screamed, firing shots at the cameras. We know you're in there. You want in? After what you did to us in another timeline? After you murdered my family for supplies? And what did you and Jolly do to your neighbors? What timeline? What the fuck are you... That's when we all heard it. Moaning. The distinctive, horrifying sound of infected. Their shouting, their gunshots, the truck ramming against the gate, all of it had drawn every infected within a mile. Through cameras, we watched them emerge from the darkening forest. Not a handful, a horde. Oh, shit, Mark breathed, looking over his shoulder. Oh, shit, Jolly, get in the truck! But it was too late. At least 50 infected, maybe more, shambling toward the noise with mindless hunger. Mark threw the truck in reverse, wheels spinning. But the infected were faster than he expected. They swarmed the vehicle from all sides, their rotting hands pounding against the windows. Drive! Jolly screamed. "Mark, drive!" Mark floored it, but there were too many. The truck swerved wildly as infected bodies slammed into it. Then one grabbed the wheel well, another. A massive, infected former bodybuilder, by the look of him, threw himself on the hood. The truck flipped. Metal shrieked as it rolled once, twice, landing on its side with a sickening crunch. Through our cameras, we watched in horror as the horde descended on the overturned vehicle. "They're not going to make it," Evan said quietly from the control room. The driver's side door, now facing up, kicked open. Mark scrambled out first, immediately kicking away an infected that grabbed for his leg. Jolly was right behind him, screaming. "Run!" Mark yelled. They ran, but there was nowhere to go. Our walls blocked them in from one side, and the forest, full of infected, blocked the others. The horde closed in from every direction. Jolly stumbled. Mark grabbed her arm, yanking her forward. For a moment, I thought they might make it to the tree line. Then Mark looked back at the pursuing infected, looked at Jolly, and his face went cold with calculation. "Yes, I'm sorry." Then he shoved her, hard, directly into the path of the oncoming horde. Jolly's scream was one of pure betrayal. "Mark! What are you—" "I don't care, bitch." Mark snarled over his shoulder, already running. "Die!" The infected fell on Jolly like a wave. Her screams were shrill and agonized as dozens of rotting hands pulled her down. Teeth sank into her shoulders, her neck, her face. She kept fighting, kept screaming his name even as they tore into her flesh. "Mark, you bastard! Mark, please, Mark!" But Mark didn't look back. He sprinted toward the forest, leaving his girlfriend's agonized screams behind. He almost made it to the tree line. Then they emerged from the shadows, 3 massive infected, former bodybuilders or athletes by their build. Their enhanced muscle mass made them faster, stronger, and more terrifying than the average infected. Mark tried to dodge. The first one caught his arm, teeth sinking deep into his bicep. Mark screamed, punching wildly. The second one grabbed his other arm. The third one lunged for his throat. "No, no, please, I don't want to." His screams cut off as teeth tore into his windpipe. The massive infected pulled him down, ripping into him with savage efficiency. His legs kicked frantically, then slower, then not at all. Within 30 seconds, Mark was nothing but scattered pieces. We watched it all through the cameras. All of us, even Nolan had come from the locked room. "I needed to see," Nolan said quietly, his voice hollow. "I needed to remember what people become when they're desperate." The infected fed for another 10 minutes before slowly dispersing into the forest, leaving nothing but bloodstains and torn fabric. "We should clean this up before dawn," my father said, his voice shaking slightly. "The bodies, they'll attract more." We contacted Zang. His salvage team arrived 2 hours later, cleared the remaining infected, and recovered what was left of our truck. They found very little of Mark and Jolly to bury. "Standard cremation protocol," Captain Park said, "for infected exposure. No ceremony." Nobody objected. Chapter 10. 5 years since the outbreak. The world was still broken, still dangerous, but Zhang's community was thriving. 300 people with structure, hope, and a future. We'd supported them faithfully over those years. Hundreds of people are alive because of supplies that flowed from our villa. Food, medicine, equipment, and knowledge. But we never left our walls. Then Zhang came with news that changed everything. "Dr. Chen has developed something," he said, setting a small vial on our table. "A trial vaccine. Early results show 90% effectiveness." The room went silent. "A vaccine?" my mother whispered. "After everything, there's actually a vaccine." "It's preliminary," Zhang cautioned. "We need more testing. 6 months to a year before mass production. But this is real hope." "What do you need?" father-in-law asked. "What you normally do, nothing more, my friend." "You'll have it," I said. "Whatever you need. We've been surviving for 5 years. Maybe it's time to start winning." That night, our family gathered on the villa walls as the sun set. "A vaccine," mother-in-law said. "If it works, we could actually reclaim the world." "If it works," Evan cautioned. "That's a lot of ifs." "But it's more ifs than we had yesterday," Noah said firmly. Nolan spoke quietly. "In my first life, I died in a kindergarten classroom. In this life, I might live to see a world without monsters. That's worth everything." "Whatever comes next, we face it together," I said. In the distance, we could see lights from the nearest safe zone. Hundreds of people fighting, hoping, surviving. "The vaccine changes everything," father-in-law said. "If it works, we can reclaim the world," I finished. "If it fails, we keep surviving. But at least now we have something we didn't have before." "What's that?" Nolan asked. I smiled, looking at my family, at the distant lights, at the fragile future we were building. Hope. For the first time in 5 years, we had real, genuine hope that this nightmare might end. The sun set, darkness falling across the broken world, but in the distance, those lights glowed steady and bright. We stood together on our walls, our family that had died and been reborn, and watched the darkness, not knowing if the vaccine would work, not knowing if we'd survive, not knowing anything except that we had each other, we had hope, and we had a reason to keep fighting. Tomorrow, the trials would continue. Tomorrow, we'd face whatever came. But tonight, for the first time in 5 years, we allowed ourselves to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a future worth surviving for. And in the darkness, that small flame of hope burned brighter than any light. The end. Thank you for watching the story so far. If you're enjoying it, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and share it with friends.